Welcome to the podcast for business. It's your host, Eugene Rowe at homeforbiz.com. Make sure you visit the site, sign up for our e-newsletter where you discover your number one asset and learn how to use it to live the life that you want right now. I've got someone on the phone who knows what it is about networking, using the assets in your local city, meeting people, building relationships. Mr. Jossua Parrini with the Creative Glue. Thanks for taking your time out on the podcast for business.
Awesome. Hey, everybody. How are you? Thank you, Gene, for the opportunity.
You're welcome. So tell us a little bit about you and your background and how you got started with the Creative Glue.
Awesome. Yeah. So I'm Jossua Parrini, with co-founder of Creative Glue. My partner and I founded this because we saw a gap between networking events, but also some gaps between Miami. My background is I'm a double major business. I got a bachelor's in business, bachelor's in marketing, and a minor in communications. I've always wanted to own a business and learn how to grow that business, but I had to learn also how to use different marketing channels to grow that business. And once I grew the business, I had to learn how to communicate the message, not only for the demographic I was serving, but also the investors. And networking has always been a part of my life. I thought that something that I always wanted to do is to tap into the local resources and how do I use specific superpowers and talents to bring my business together. And I thought networking would be that key. I was in sales for a while. I had my own agency for a while that worked with, out of college, I worked with developers for very large complexes and residences around the world, in the U.S., specifically here in the U.S. I traveled to 36 states. And I learned a lot. I learned a lot from, New York is not California. California is not Texas. Texas is not Florida. Florida is not, Pennsylvania. And you get to learn a little bit more like the United States and how it is as a country, because it's very different in various states. And it's amazing to see how people connect and just interact. And then moving back to Florida, Miami specifically, 4 years ago, my girlfriend and I started networking through Chamber and going to these networking events, but also these creative events. And we noticed that business events had, they're kind of dull, they're boring, right? You get a name tag, you go, and they say, hey, go network. And so then you're in a room full of strangers, and you're expected to meet every one of them. So what we noticed is we're meeting a lot of business professionals in several verticals in business, but we didn't ever meet any creatives. And so we didn't see any graphic designers, engineers, social media people, any marketers. And then vice versa, we would go to these creative events, and for the most part what they would be is very creative, a lot of art, a lot of visuals, music, a lot of self-expression, but no business. There was no business. There was no business conversations. A lot of them were struggling financially and how to make their money to sell their art or work or creativity. And I think solely it's in both schools, right? When you go to actual colleges and schools, they teach you how to do that one aspect. They don't really teach you how to network, how to build your resume, how to actually approach people and do all these things. And so when you're left out of college, you're like, oh my God, how do I build this? And how do I tap into my network? And how do I grow my network? And if I'm a creative, how do I sell my art or my work? And as a business guy, how do I creatively think about new ideas? And so they teach you on a mental one-way street. And so what we try to do here at Creative Glue is to bridge that gap between business and creativity. And so what I decided to do with my partner is to create a platform where both business professionals and creative professionals get to meet and share ideas in a really cool and engaging way. So we invite all types of sponsors to basically give resources to the entrepreneurs so that we can ultimately accelerate these high-impact ideas. And here's what I mean. If you're an entrepreneur, it's going to be tough to meet a graphic designer to help you with a logo. And then you have to meet a developer to help you with a website or an app. And then you have to meet a marketer to help you with marketing verticals. And then ultimately, you're going to need somebody to fund it, right? And that's an investor. And it's very hard to meet every one of those, particularly within 6 months or 3 months, to accelerate your idea. And what's happening is that's a very tough part for entrepreneurship, is to piece these puzzles together to make this work. And so I said, well, why don't we bring those specific talents together under one night through very specific events throughout Miami? And what we're able to do is to glue those things together. So in one night specifically, what you could do is you can share your idea and you'll meet a graphic designer, and then he'll introduce you to a marketer, and then that marketer will introduce you to a developer to help you with a website, and then that website turns into an app. And then once you package that whole thing, then you give that to an investor who's there too as well. And then through our network, we're able to put you through these different types of specialized networking events, but also aligned partnerships So we allow, let's say, for example, an investor to say, hey, do you have any creative startups that we can look into investing? And I said, definitely, we have this. Or a startup will hit us up and say, hey, we're looking for some graphic designers and some developers. Do you have any idea? And so what we do is we align those things together and try to become that glue to those pieces.
Wow. So we're talking to Jossua Parrini right now with Creative Glue in Miami, Florida area, right here on the Podcast for Business. Make sure while you're listening, use those social share buttons. Share the audio. Use Facebook, Twitter, Facebook, even MySpace if you still have it, or even AOL. Come on, the old school community, right? So listen, Joshua.
Most people still have those.
But I think my mother has it. So, what do you guys' events look like when you're doing them? Do you get a lot of people? How's the response?
Yeah. So it's not your typical networking event because I don't want it to be a boring networking event. So we created 6 events based on 6 entrepreneurial concepts. So we tied them to 6 districts that were disconnected in itself. And I think if we go broad spectrum on a bird's eye view, New York has this problem. California has this problem. Well, we have all these beautiful districts, but people just kind of become silos into these districts because they feel that it identifies with them. And here's what I mean. Brickell is the business center for Miami, and they don't go to Wynwood, which is our art district. And the art district doesn't go to the design district, which is, Prada, Gucci, Dior, and all these guys. And so then that district doesn't hang out in Midtown, which is a family kind of place and gathering. And then, South Beach is crazy, and no one goes to South Beach except tourists, when you're a Miami local. You usually don't go to South Beach because it's going to happen there. And so we also noticed that gap. And so what we did was say, well, why don't we tie these 6 entrepreneurial concepts to these districts so that we can bring very specific talent to those districts as well. So what we did was we aligned, we started with art, and then we did Wynwood Art, and then that one was basically focused on creative thinking, creative design, how to creatively think of ideas through seeing creatives and visuals. Because that's where ideas start, right? It's when you saw something or you pictured something or you were impacted by something with something creative. And so you were like, aha, and you got that aha moment. And then you're like, I'm going to write it down. I'm going to put it together. So what we do with our networking events is that we immerse ourselves through that concept. And these 6 concepts is art, fashion, business, marketing, technology, and social media. We chose those 6 because that's truly an entrepreneurial journey, right? So you start out with an idea, and then you pitch it to people. And we truly believe that fashion plays a huge role in who you're approaching. So you got to wear a nice suit and tie in front of an investor so he can feel that you have a presence, right? And then you can't wear a suit and tie in front of a creative because he's going to think, who's that lawyer, right?
Right, yeah.
And so you really do have to figure out how fashion plays a role in self-expression, not only for your company, for yourself, but also who's in front of you so that you can relate as much as possible. And then from that, you have to structure a business. And so what am I, an LLC, a partnership, an S Corp? Am I a nonprofit? Can I be a B Corp as well, which is a huge, we're a B Corp. We're transitioning into a benefit corp. And then the next one you're going to do is once you structure the business, you have to market it, right? So what are my marketing channels? What are, where can I go in terms of my verticals? Am I going to go digital or traditional, SEO, social media, all these different types of marketing aspects? What's my branding look like? And then once you do that, then you're going to have to use technology to get you to the next level. What's the best CRM system out there? What's the best accounting software? How am I going to communicate my team? Is it Slack or is it Skype? How am I going to use the next technology to get to my next level? So we've introduced virtual reality and 3D mapping to realtors so that they can actually show these properties better. We've given them drones so that they can take pictures of these really cool properties. So technology like that, even 3D printing, we're giving fashion designers 3D printers so that they can print dresses and accessories and stuff like that they would have to wait for months from China or design and cost. So it's about using technology to get you to the next level. And then once you're growing and you have these, you're in this full concept. And lastly is, well, how do I tell my story and how do I become, relevant and just relatable to my demographic through social media? And so we end our events with telling a story of what you've done from art, fashion, business, marketing, and technology, and telling your story right on social media. And then through that, we were able to really tie them into each district. And so every event is completely different. So while, for example, I'll throw in art, the first one we did, we had people painting murals while you were networking. The next one we did was fashion. We had a fashion show highlighting 4 up-and-coming designers so that they can showcase a very specific crowd and targeted demographic. So while you were networking, you get to see a fashion show.
Right.
The last one we did was Brickell Business, which we did a speed networking event. So by the time you were done within an hour and a half, you left with 30 business cards. So you can come into our events, enjoy. They're all sponsored by big guys. So we have Adobe, Uber, WeWork, the Chambers. We have SLS Groups. So pretty big guys. And then all the way down to your small business and your startups. We feature, I think, anyone that wants to be within this ecosystem that supports this ecosystem so that we can continue to push entrepreneurs to accelerate their ideas.
So we've been talking to Jossua Parrini. We have got a lot of information. He's with the co-founder of Creative Glue down in Miami. Now, Jossua, why don't you give the listeners a way to find out more information about you?
Yeah, so you can look us up. We're on Instagram. We post a lot of stuff there. We're growing our following there. We have a big following on our email database. That's how most people find out about our events. It's an invite only, and the reason why we do that is so that we bring very high-level targeted people that want to be successful, that want to unite, they want to give and to learn, and come together. So you can find out more about us at Instagram. It's creative_glue. On Facebook, it's The Creative Glue. You can go to our website at thecreativeglue.com to find out a little more what we do. And we're looking to expand into different cities. So if anybody's interested in having a Creative Glue in their city, we'd love to set something up and see how we can help out and accelerate that city.
Sounds good. Jossua Parrini with the Creative Glue. Thank you so much. Thanks for your time on the Podcast for Business.